Life in remote places far from civilization is on the one hand peace, silence, and closeness to nature, and on the other, often poverty, lack of education, and the need to overcome difficulties in order to obtain some basic benefits. It's hard to believe, but not so long ago, children from the Chinese village of Atuleer regularly traveled a path full of dangers to their health just to reach the nearest school. We will tell you how they had to climb down and up a dangerous ladder where people even came from in such remote places far from civilization, and how, thanks to the internet, their lives made a dramatic turn. The village of Atuleer, located in Sichuan province, is well hidden from outsiders' eyes in the mountains. To reach it, one must climb about 800 meters from the base of the cliff. The village itself, in absolute terms, is located more than 2,000 meters above sea level. The length of the settlement from east to west is more than a kilometer, with the east side high and the west side low. The elevation difference reaches hundreds of meters. Interestingly, in the lowest and highest parts of the village, the weather can differ. Overall, the climate is moderate. Its history began 200 years ago, when a group of settlers decided to protect themselves as much as possible from any kind of aggression. They chose a remote place, hidden from strangers' eyes, with a mild climate and fertile lands that were difficult to attack, yet easy to defend. This way, they managed to isolate themselves from the world. But when normal roads began to appear in this region as a result of democratic reforms, Atuleer was left without one due to its unique location. For a long time, the local residents, in order to reach civilization, used rope ladders. In total, there were 17 ladders, and the road looked, and truly was, extremely dangerous. Because of Atuleer's inaccessibility, truly horrifying stories sometimes occurred. For example, once a baby in the village became ill, several adults carried the child for treatment but could not reach the foot of the mountain. The baby died on the way. The villagers had no choice but to carry the poor child back. And how many people have fallen from the cliffs and died over the 200 years of the village's existence is now impossible to count. Perhaps the village would have continued living its own life, and the locals would have kept facing danger each time they descended into civilization, if not for the media. In 2015, Atuleer became famous all over the world after photos appeared online showing the terrifying journey of village children to school. To get to class, the children had to climb along shaky ladders. Add to that the backpacks on their shoulders. The descent alone took the children more than 2 hours. Later, to cover the situation, a reporter from the state Chinese television company was sent up the mountain. The journalist burst into tears while trying to climb to Atuleer. The journey seemed that dangerous to her. The village head said that 7 or 8 residents had fallen to their deaths in recent years, losing their grip while climbing, and many others had been injured. Once, he himself almost fell, as the path to the school was too difficult. The children visited their families in Atuleer only twice a month, spending the rest of the time in a dormitory at the school. Because of such conditions, some children didn't attend school at all. Even aside from the dangerous road, life in Atuleer was poor and difficult. Traditional clay houses didn't even have sealed windows. There were only openings in the walls to let in light. There was no electricity or running water. Many families owned only a bed as furniture. People lived without tables. Adults and children had to sit on their haunches while eating. Their diet consisted mainly of potatoes, corn, and pickled cabbage. And to earn money, they had to carry their harvested crops down to the foot of the mountain. Everything was sold for mere pennies because the buyers knew that no one would carry the goods back up. The media attention quickly brought the first positive results. In 2016, the authorities replaced the old ladder with a new one made of metal and consisting of 2,556 steps. It was much safer than the previous one. Of course, the path to and from the village still remains an adventure, not for the faint-hearted, but now the chances of falling and dying are much smaller, and the trip became faster as well. Thanks to the new ladder and the popularity gained on the internet, the village began attracting tourists' attention. Fortunately, in this regard, it has excellent potential. The difficult path is fully rewarded by the beauty waiting at the top, the picturesque canyons and untouched forests. In 2020, the life of the ordinary village changed dramatically once again. It came under the state program to fight poverty. As part of the project, the authorities relocated more than 80 households to a new residential complex. They had to pay an amount equivalent to $300 per person. The size of their new apartments ranged from 25 to 100 square meters. There, they had everything necessary for comfortable living: a kitchen, toilet, running water, electricity, and gas. And of course, children could now go to school safely. However, some families decided not to leave their homeland. The people who remained in Atuleer, among other things, are engaged in the further development of tourism. It would seem that life became better for everyone. Life became more joyful. But human rights activists view the situation differently. There are doubts that the authorities initially discussed the relocation thoroughly with the residents of Atuleer. Nevertheless, people clearly began to live better because it simply couldn't have been worse before. So what is happening with Atuleer now? The government financed the electrification of Atuleer and 2 neighboring villages. A water supply system with drinking water was also installed, and electricity became available partly thanks to the installation of solar panels. Some villages are engaged in agriculture, growing nuts, green peppers, peas, and corn, working on olive plantations and in orange orchards that have appeared in the area. They also raise goats and sheep. The government allocated funds to repair an abandoned cableway, which will make it easier to transport livestock, food, various goods, and building materials. But many people associate the future of the settlement mainly with tourism. Thus, the cliffside village began to be visited by more than 100,000 tourists a year. In particular, the residents of the village have their own small shops and are always happy to treat tourists to local dishes. There are also houses where visitors can stay overnight for a fee. The youth are doing very well. They have found a modern way to earn money, broadcasting their lives on the internet. There are plenty of people who want to see what life is like in a remote Chinese village. And 4G networks with electricity have become available. It was the villagers' online broadcasts about their rural life that brought a new wave of popularity to the mountain village and also helped promote local products. Even before the relocation, the village already had an equipped kindergarten with proper furniture, toys, and a television. Children are provided with breakfasts, although not long ago they didn't even have chairs. Judging by recent videos, few families now live permanently on the slope. Most of them apparently moved down. After all, there are schools and a hospital there. The villagers climb up only for work, or as if to a kind of summer cottage, to feel nostalgic. It's not exactly known how many people still live on the slope now, but one thing is clear: with every year, there will be fewer of them. The government is gradually turning the cliffside village into a tourist attraction. For this purpose, young and active people have even been sent for special training. In general, the youth look to the future with enthusiasm, while the older generation does so with a touch of nostalgia. Meanwhile, the government continues to implement its poverty reduction program. According to official statistics for 2021, the annual per capita income of villagers reached the equivalent of about $1,500. For comparison, earlier the people of Atuleer lived on less than $1 a day. But there is one point: most of them now live in city apartments, which are clearly more expensive than houses without electricity or running water. In any case, parents can now send their children to school without fear that each step might be their last, and that is priceless. Overall, as a place for eco-tourism, the village looks very attractive. It is beautiful, unique, and has even become one of the points of tourist China on the internet. That's all for today. If you liked the video, be sure to share it and support the channel with a like.